Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of the book of Job, Sefer Iyov. We are about to study chapter 39. We are in the middle of God's response to Iyov's challenge. Iyov had challenged God, I do not deserve the punishments that I am experiencing. I know that you, God, know that I'm innocent. Why am I suffering? And God comes back and responds, finally, after the dialogue between Iyov and all of his friends. And now we have God comes in min hase'ara, in the tempest, in this terribly difficult, challenging, and confusing and heart-wrenching dilemma. And God's answer is, in a sense, a non-answer, but it's also an answer, so far at least, because we still have a lot more to read. But he started in the last chapter by saying, look at the entire creation. Look at the entire world around you. I created this all. And the wisdom, the bina, the das, and those terms come up again and again and again, das and bina. The wisdom that I had in creating this world, in establishing the laws of nature by which the entire universe exists, is something that you have no connection to, no possible way of understanding. Now you can identify, you can observe, you can describe what you see, and learn a lot, but you have no connection to the laws that were established by me at the time of creation to make all that happen. That's beyond you. And then furthermore, even the things that are on this world, there's so much that you haven't seen. Have you identified the depths of the sea, the birds of the wilderness, and so on and so forth? There's so much more for you to see and to learn. So what we're getting the sense of so far is that what God is saying is that I established the world to work in a way, and the reasons why I established the world to work this way are reasons which you'll never understand. You have to learn, see, identify, but you cannot possibly understand why everything works the way it works. And more importantly, and this is going to be honed in on even more in this coming chapter we're going to study today, more importantly, it's not all about you. You asked me about you, Iyov. Your suffering, why do you deserve your suffering? In your small world, right, all you see is the life that you're living, the suffering that you had, right? And then you ask the question, why am I suffering if I don't deserve it? But it's not all about you. The world is about much more than you. And the laws of nature are the way they are because of reasons that you will never be able to comprehend or understand. So let's go on. Chapter 39, verse 1. Hayadata es ledes yale sola. Have you identified the time, the season of the year that the mountain goats, the Ye'elim, what are they called in I forget what they're called in English now, but the mountain goats that climb on the cliffs. Do you have any idea? Have you determined? Do you know? Again, this is das. This is the word das showing up, and it repeats over and over again. Do you know? Right? The times that they give birth. Cholel ayalos tishmar. The time when the ayalot, which are another, like antelopes or another kind, or gazelles, the time that they go into labor. Tispor yirachim timalena. Do you know when? Can you count when the times of their gestation period is fulfilled and complete? V'yadata eit lidetana. Do you know the times when they give birth? Tichrana yaldehen tifalachna. When they crouch down in order to give as their babies open their wombs to be born, chevleihem tishalachna, in order to that their labor pains should deliver the babies out. Yachlemu v'neihem yirbu babor. When their children are born, they're healthy, right, and they grow out and they prosper in the wild, right? Then there's nobody there to take care of them, but these animals live and prosper in the wild. I provide for a world that does this, right? That each one has its gestation period. They know how to give birth. They know when, and the babies are born, and they have what they need. Yatsu v'lo shavu lamo. These children, it doesn't take long before they leave their parents and go out on their own, and they have what to eat. They have a life. Mishilach perech chavshi. Who is the one who sends out the wild onager? The onager is an Asian donkey, which is a wild donkey. They still are in parts of the Middle East, even a few in the land of Israel, but that are wild. These are not tame donkeys. Who sends these wild donkeys out into the wild? Umosros arod mipiteach. Who unloosened the bonds of the arod, which is another word for a donkey, a wild onager. The asher samti arava so that I made its home in the wilderness, umishkenosav melecha, and the place where it resides is the salt flats out in the wilderness. Yischak lahamon kirya. This donkey laughs at the noise of the cities. It doesn't reside in the cities. It's not a donkey. In other words, God is saying this is a donkey that has nothing to do with human beings. This is completely at the grace and the creation of God Himself. That's it. I'm the one that made this animal. I'm the one that provided a world for the animal to survive and prosper and thrive in. Tishuos no gates lo yishma. He never hears the screams of a driver, of the donkey driver that the tame donkey is subjected to, and he has to listen to his boss. This donkey does what he wants, right? Yitur harim mir'ehu. He roams. His pasture is roaming through the hills and the mountains. V'achar kol yarok yidrosh, and it's constantly searching out new green places to pasture and to eat. Hayover reim of decha. Does the re'im is probably an oryx, which is also another familiar animal in the Middle East, a large, kind of like some people translate this as a wild ox. I think re'im in modern Hebrew, I think, refers to an oryx, which is, I think, probably more likely given the descriptions here. But in Yolin alavusecha, would he spend his night at your bed? Would he lie in your bed? No, it's a wild animal. It roams. So God is emphasizing that nature and the world around us and all of the creatures around us, they all have lives. They all have what they need. They all thrive. And there are laws and rules and of nature by which they live that I have established for them. Look beyond you. Hatikshor rein betelem avoso. Can you tie up the oryx in order to with ropes in order that it can plow, that it can pull? The telem is the furrows dug by the plow. Imishaded amokim acharecha, would he go and imisaded amokim acharecha, would he plow the amek, the valleys behind you? No, he wouldn't. Valleys are typically fertile, which is where a lot of the agriculture takes place. Hatiftach boki rav kocho, would you be reliant upon its powerful strength? And oryx is one of the largest of the the family that includes deer and cows and oxen and all that. The oryx is one of the largest wild species of that, so it's a powerful animal. But can you rely on its strength? No, you can't, because it runs in the wild. It's not for you. The point being that all of these animals aren't for you. You can't use them. So why did I create them? For themselves, for their own purpose. They're all part of this master plan. V'ta'azov elav yigiecha. Would you be able to leave your work to him, like you do some of the farm animals? No, you can't. Its work is for itself. Hata'amin bo ki yashiv zarecha. Would you trust the oryx to drag and carry your seeds, your produce in from the fields? Would it gather up your grain? Of course not. And then God focuses on other animals. Kinaf rinanim ne'elasa, the wings of rinanim, which is generally translated as ostriches. Ostriches, a more familiar term is ye'enim, but the rinanim here, it sounds like it's referring to ostriches. But in Evra Chasida Venotza, does the ostrich have the same type of feathers and plumage as the Chasida, as the stork? No, they're each different. Each one has its own way, right? The ostrich is an ostrich and the stork is a stork. Each one has its own niche in the environment, as we would call it in modern terminology. Because the ostrich lays its eggs on the ground, as opposed to other birds that lay them in nests and in trees. And it gets the heat of the dirt from the ground, as opposed to the warmth of the mother sitting on them, which is other birds in nests. Now, the way the writers of the writer of Eov was under the assumption that it lays its eggs on the ground and just leaves them to hatch and leaves them on their own. That probably because they would often find abandoned ostrich eggs, and I think that still happens. However, just from I'm not an expert in nature and bird life, but based on the documentaries that I've seen, ostriches are actually very protective of their young. But that's not the image being presented here. It leaves its eggs on the ground, and she forgets that someone can step on it. It can be stepped on, either by herself or by other animals. And other animals can come and eat the ostrich egg, which I'm sure definitely does happen in nature. She abandons her children not to herself, to others. In other words, to themselves. Her efforts in laying the egg, she has no fear for her children and allows them. In other words, but this is how the ostrich lives, right? The ostrich lives in the way the ostrich lives, because I designed the world in such a way that ostriches can prosper and do and have what they need to flourish. Why? Because God did not give her wisdom. God did not give her understanding. And this seems like a reference to all animals. The animals all go. I chose the wisdom that you have, Eov, right? The das and the bina that you do have, your ability to see and understand and even have this conversation, I decided to give to you. I decided not to give that to the ostrich, but I did give to the ostrich its plumage, its wings, and its way of life and what it needs to thrive in the wilderness. And so too with all the other animals. Ka'es b'marom tamri. Because if she had wisdom, if she had chachma, then she wouldn't be running around this is why people, I think this Rinanim does refer to an ostrich, because otherwise she would fly in the skies like all the other birds, right? Tischak lasusu l'rochbo, and she would laugh at the horse and the rider. Again, the image of the ostrich is a fast-running animal where it could run and or be chased by a person on a horse and a rider. But if she was able to fly, she'd be able to laugh at them. Hatzitem lasus gevura. This is verse 19. Do you give the horse its strength? Hatalbish tzavaro rama. Do you dress up its neck in its mane? So even the horse, which you think you've conquered because you domesticated it and you do use it for your purpose, but have you designed the horse? Have you made the horse the way it is? No. Hatar ishenu ka'arbe. That do you make the horse shake like locust? Locust is like this humming and this buzz of power and strength when they're coming, and it engenders fear. The thing here is that the horse, the image that's being drawn here is the image of a horse about to go into battle. And you can, I mean, I've never experienced this, but you can feel the horse, shaking and getting ready to charge. Hod nachro ema, his the hot air coming out of its nostrils engender fear. The fear of horses getting ready to charge into battle is an awe-inspiring and fear-inspiring a sight and experience. Yachbru va'emek v'yoses b'koach. He digs like he paws, not paws actually. He digs his hooves into the dirt, and he runs with strength and might. He runs directly into the line of fire. Yischak lefachad v'lo yechas. He laughs at fear. He has no fear. He'll charge. V'lo yashuv mipnei charav. He's not going to run and retreat because of the sword that is facing him. Olav tirne ashpa. the arrows and spears are being thrown at him, right? Lahav, chanis, v'chidon, the spear and the javelin are flashing in front of him. But pirash v'rogez yigam me'aretz, but in with shaking and trembling, and rogez here is some rogez sometimes means a trembling of fear, but it could also mean a trembling of excitement. Yigam me'aretz, he charges through, he plows through the land. V'lo ya'amin ki kol shofar, and the sounds of the noises of the horns, the trumpets playing, trumpeting out in battle, don't scare him and don't turn him away. B'dei shofar yomar he'ach, when the sounds of the shofar, when the sounds of the horns blast, he says, doesn't mean nothing to me. Umeirachok yoriach milchama, and from far away he smells battle. Ram shorim utrua, he hears the noise and the thundering of the people screaming, the officers screaming commands, and the blasts of the trumpets. So God is describing the horse. It's a majestic creature that wasn't created by man. That's the power and the might and awesome, fearsome beauty of the horse. Again, that's something that you don't understand. I created that. I made that, God says. Again, no concentration, no answer, no words directly addressing Eov's question of why am I suffering. God is talking about a world way beyond Eov, way beyond what me and you experience in our lives. One of the answers to this question is go outside. Open your eyes to what is beyond you. But in the end, we still don't have an answer. And it's spoiler alert. We're going to hear a lot from God, and we're going to learn a lot in this chapter that we're studying now, and in the next several chapters where God continues to speak. And we're going to learn so much, and God is going to tell us so much. But in the end, we're still going to not know the answer. Why am I suffering if I don't deserve it? Because that is, were you here at creation when I created this grand world and set these laws in place? What the feeling one is going to get after this is that I made the world run according to the laws of nature for many, many, many reasons that are beyond you. And sometimes those laws result in things that seem to us to be unfair. And that's just the way it is. And we have to learn, we have to understand, we have to observe this world around us, appreciate this world around us, and do the best we can to make the best of it. I know I kind of jumped to the end before I should, but I just kind of giving you an idea for where this answer, God's answer, is leading us. Where is it going? Habibi noscha yaver nates. This is verse 26 now. Is it from your understanding? Again, this is the word bina. Das and bina is going to be coming over and over, and also occasionally chachma, right? Yaver nates. Is it your understanding that the hawk or eagle grows feathers, yifros k'nafav l'teiman, and it is able to spread out its wings and fly all the way to Teiman, which is often translated as Yemen, but a far off place in out across the desert. Does the vulture fly high in the sky? Nesher is often translated as eagle, but it's been quite conclusively proven that the word nesher in the Bible, it refers to the vulture, the griffin. I think it's the griffin vulture is the vulture native to the Middle East, a majestically beautiful animal that flies and soars high in the sky. Is it? Are you the one who says that the nesher should take up to the sky? That it should build its nest high up on the cliffs and the mountaintops? Sela yishkon v'yislonan, because it lives and rests, in its nest. That's where it resides, up in the high rocks and the cliffs. Al shen sela mitzuda. On the sharp rocks, and Mitsuda is sometimes means a fortress, but it means like a solid, tall, majestic rock. And up there, in the cracks of the rock, is where it resides. Mishom chofar ochel. From there, he looks around for food. He looks all over the ground to see where there's an animal. And its eyes can see from so far away. V'efracho ya'al udam, while his babies swallow the blood of the prey that the vulture eats. Uv'asher chalalim shamhu, and where there are the dead, that is where it is. Because this is again one of the numerous proofs that a nesher is not referring to an eagle, but it's referring to a vulture, because it's spying out, the carrion, the dead, animals on the wilderness floor, and that's what it eats. Do you have anything to do with this? No, of course not. All of this is part of my grand world that I created. This concludes chapter 39, but it does not conclude God's speech to Eov, God's answer to Eov's challenge. But we're getting a feeling for where God's going with this. But in the next two chapters, it's going to be a little bit of a change. So I hope you're looking forward to that, as I am. Thank you so much for studying this incredibly powerful, incredibly strong, incredibly moving and difficult and challenging book of Eov together. Have a wonderful day.